everyone, Jen Loves Wrestling here. Hope you are having a great day. Happy Wednesday. I am excited because NXT is tonight. Of course, NXT is awesome every week, but you guys already know I am particularly excited for this week because the first round match on this show will be for Imperium versus Lucha House Party. So I look forward to watching Imperium make their first step advancing in the Dusty Cup on the road to the finals to winning it all because it's Imperium and that's my favorite. I love them. Alright, so speaking of NXT and speaking of the Dusty Cup Classic, it kicked off last week Wednesday, so we are going to start there. We are going to talk about the Dusty Cup and the matches that have taken place so far, mostly focused on that, but we are going to touch on a few other things that happened in NXT, and we are also going to cover a little bit of UK as well. But we got a lot to talk about, so without further ado, let's start with the first match of the first round of the Dusty Cup, which was Ever-Rise versus Grizzled Young Veterans. I don't think to anybody's surprise, Grizzled Young Veterans did pick up the win here, but it was a great match. Ever-Rise certainly put on one heck of a performance as well. They look great in there, and I love Ever-Rise, and I'm really excited. I love both these teams, but I'm really excited to see what the future holds for Ever-Rise because these guys are so entertaining. They're so charismatic. Their promos are great. Their in-ring work is great. So they really got a bright future ahead of them. So props to Ever-Rise for putting on an awesome match too, but Grizzled Young Veterans was your first team to advance in the Dusty Cup Classic. Next we had a mystery team in this tournament. MSK was debuting on that episode of NXT, and they did not say who this was going to be, but it ended up being Nash Carter and Wes Lee, and they faced Isaiah Swerve Scott and Jake Atlas, and MSK did end up not only debuting on NXT, debuting in the Dusty Cup, but also picking up the victory and advancing in the Dusty Cup. So, good for MSK. That was a great match. And I think you would be hard-pressed to find another team that is so similar to MSK in their in-ring style and their creativity. So this really made for a good competitive match. It was fun to watch. It was fun to see the stuff that MSK was pulling off, and good for them, picked up the victory, so they advanced. And then your main event of the night was the third Dusty Cup match, was Undisputed Era versus Breezango, and we are going to get to that in just a minute, because that was the main event, and I want to talk about leading up to that, how everything that took place during and after that match, the road that we got on to get to that point. But first, we're going to talk about a couple of other things that took place on NXT. Real quick, I want to mention a couple things. Xia Li continues to not really impress me. I mentioned this before in a video, and it's just kind of the same old. I expected more fire. I expected more intensity from her. I expected, I guess, more brutality, and you're not gonna get that same the effect that I was looking for by facing people that aren't. There's no notoriety there, and there's no improvement there. There's no growth. But I'm hoping that this all advances, and we see progression when we finally find out who this mystery person is. I have heard two names, and I'm excited for either possibility. So hopefully this will end up playing out, but if it's either of those two names, I'll be happy with it. So let's talk about the next thing that I am super duper crazy excited to talk about. One of my favorite parts of NXT and one of my favorite parts in WWE for the whole week was, and it cannot be overstated how awesome this was, Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher's promo. If you have not seen this, please watch it. If you have seen it, please go back and watch it again because this was gold. These two put on a masterclass. This is how it's done. Okay? This is how it's done. You could feel the hatred. You could just feel the intensity. Like the whole promo, the whole segment gave me goosebumps. It felt uncomfortable in a good way. And they were able to convey all of that without being silly or cheesy or over the top. They didn't need to call each other bitch. They didn't need to flip tables. They didn't need to use inside terms, go for shock value. Every symbol that Timothy Thatcher said was important. This was just brilliant, and that is just all there is to it. This was fantastic. I love it. Oh, so just, I can't really say anymore. It was beautiful. It was perfectly done. Great job from both those guys. All right, so now let's talk about how we got to our main event. Finn Balor was jumped by Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch earlier in the show. And Kyle O'Reilly came out and made the save. And I kind of questioned that because I thought, Finn Balor, since he's come back to NXT, has made it clear that he is kind of a lone wolf. He doesn't need anybody. He is the main event. He is the show. The business watches him. And denounces any version of the club. He is a solo act. So I questioned, would he do the same in return for them? We got our answer during the main event. So during the main event, Pete Dunne attacked Kyle O'Reilly. Luckily for the Undisputed Era, this was not enough to distract Adam Cole, as he was still able to pick up the victory, so Era did advance in the Dusty Cup. But also, our questions were answered because Finn Balor did indeed come out and make the save, helping out Kyle O'Reilly, and brought the show off the air with those guys all together, and I guess, giving us questions. Was this just a favor returned? Is there some sort of allegiance or alliance going on here? So what is going to be the story in the next coming weeks for Finn Balor and the Undisputed Era? So I look very forward to seeing what happened here. I like the progression of storylines going on currently in NXT. Good stuff, good way to take the show off the air. Definitely very intriguing stuff. So good stuff, NXT. Loved it. All right, so 205. If you are not watching 205, you're missing out. I mean, you're missing out every week anyways, because 205 is always good quality action. Yes, they may not have your big top level names, but they do have top quality action. But in particular, lately, this past week, for example, if you're not watching 205, you are missing out on some of the Dusty Cup matches. So, please, if you can, try and fit 205 in your schedule, because it deserves it. It is worth it. But if you simply cannot do it, then make sure you're watching Jen Loves Wrestling so I can catch you up and give you a nice little recap. So 205, we had 2 Dusty Cup matches on there. Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde versus the Singh brothers. And unfortunately, Bali 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 came up shorty on the losing end of this stick here. My analogies are weird. The Singh brothers did not advance. Legado del Fantasma did advance, so Mendoza and Wilde advance in the Dusty Cup on the first Dusty Cup match on 205 Live. The second match, Killian Dane and Drake Maverick versus Kurt Stallion and August Gray. Dane and Maverick pick up the victory here. They continue their oddball teaming together, which is definitely a mismatch, but we know WWE loves those mismatch teams, and this one's actually kind of working out pretty well for them so far, so it's entertaining. They picked up the win. Now, next week, as I said, you should be watching 205. That's particularly important for next week. I am looking so forward to next week's match. Dusty Cup match. It is going to be tonynese and Arya Daivari versus Ashanti the Adonis and Desmond Troy. I am looking so forward to this because I am a huge fan of Arya Daivari in particular and Ashanti the Adonis. So this is kind of a tough one to me. For me, I think if I'm just looking forward to seeing this match. It's going to be a great match. But if I have to pick somebody that I'm hoping advances here, I'm actually hoping it's Ashanti the Adonis and Desmond, because as good as Nice and Daivari have been as a team, and it gives Nice something to do, I'd rather see Daivari solo, and I am really hoping in some way we can get him into the cruiserweight title scene, because he certainly deserves it. He is a founding father of that brand, and you guys know I don't need to continue to go on about how Arya Daivari is a backbone of that brand, and how he is a founding father of it, and how he gives his all when he is out there, and just watch his facial expressions, he gives 110% out there. I'm just so impressed with him that you know, let's hope that he can make his way someday into the cruiser title scene. All right, so let's jump across the pond and finish up here with NXT UK. Because we're going a little long in this video. Shocker. Joe Coffey versus Sha Samuels. Joe Coffey picks up the win. This is not the story here, as obviously this is no shock to anybody. But they did something kind of cool here, because we obviously know it's no secret. A lot of people watch the independents, and when WWE brings somebody in, not always, but a lot of time, they change their names. Or they, and this also happened with the Shanti the Adonis too, they're on TV for a little while, they're taken off TV, they come back, and they're repackaged with a new name. Well, Sha Samuels didn't seem to like this too much, as he grabbed the mic in the middle of his match and denounced his new name of Ed Harvey, and said, "I'm not Ed Harvey, I'm Sha Samuels." So, so weird, but very intriguing. So, if that sounds cool to you, I don't know. It was definitely unique and interesting, so you need to check that out on NXT UK, go on the network, and, you know, give that match a quick look. Just something real different there, so I was interested in it. Tyler Bates picks up the win over Sam Gradwell. Again, not shocking, but what is nice is seeing Sam Gradwell's progression. He is become such an interesting character since UK had their break. You're really seeing that progression. It was really like he was putting in that work and putting, you know, his thinking cap on when NXT was on break, and came back and really just hit the fast forward button on what he was trying to achieve with this character. His stuff in the ring is good. His promos are great, so entertaining. He's really starting to come into his own here. They built up Ginny and Kaylee Ray on this show because they are going to be having a match for Kaylee Ray's title. Go Ginny, fingers crossed. I am just excited that we seemingly are past the Piper Niven Kaylee Ray stuff, because, as I said before, I cannot watch another one of their matches. It's just, yeah. Alright, so main event, and it was Walter versus A-Kid. And if you're not familiar with NXT UK, you probably don't know very much about A-Kid, and you should. I almost can guarantee you will be impressed. This is not an over-the-top character. This is not a flashy character, except, you know, he's fantastic in the ring. He is not fantastic on the mic. He doesn't need to be. That is not his wheelhouse. But Walter obviously picked up the win here. We all knew that going in, and I even expected a great match from these guys. I've been a big fan of A-Kid's for a while, even before he was in NXT, before he signed with WWE. But this was even honestly better than I thought it was going to be. A-Kid is unbelievable. Such great stuff from this match. Highly recommend if you haven't watched NXT UK. This was a particularly good episode, but they are always good, and 205 is awesome, and NXT is going to be awesome tonight, so enjoy it, guys. I love you. Thank you. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff, and have a good night. Enjoy NXT. Love you. Bye. Mwah.